of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 14 through 16. I wanted to give a little background before jumping into the scripture this morning. This is coming from what's known as the Sermon on the Mount. And Jesus provided a lot of information while giving the Sermon on the Mount. There were multitudes of people that came to hear Jesus speak. Some could be considered disciples. Do we have any disciples of Christ in there? Any? Just a few? Come on now. Everyone raise your hand. We're all disciples of Christ. But yes, there were disciples of Christ that were there that wanted to hear him speak. But there were other people within that gathering that were not disciples of Christ. They had heard about the wondrous stories and the wondrous miracles that Jesus had performed. And they were curious. They wanted to see what this guy was all about. They wanted to see what great next miracle was going to happen. Matthew chapter 5, verses 14 through 16. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Our sermon title today is called, Hey, I'm talking to you. And I could almost hear Jesus say this as he began the Sermon on the Mount. Because in verse 14 he said, you are the light of the world. Now when he was giving the Sermon on the Mount, was he talking to absolutely everyone in attendance? No. He was specifically talking to those who followed and believed in him. Which is why he said, you are the light of the world. He didn't say everyone gathered here is the light of the world. He was specifically calling out his disciples. Now, in all of the commentary that I was reading and preparing for today's sermon, I found a gentleman who likes to do a nice little concept when breaking down Bible verses. And I thought I'd do the same thing with these verses today. He likes to uncover the truths that lie within the sermon, within the Scripture, by asking himself who, what, when, where, how, and why. It's always good to ask yourself those questions to get to the truth, to get to the answer. So I'd like to use that as we look at some of this text here to help us really uncover the truths that lie within this portion of the Sermon on the Mount. Now when he was talking about you are the light of the world, he didn't call out particular names. But when he said to everyone, you are the light of the world, there were people within that multitude that understood, hey, Jesus is talking to me. We find that through a lot of the scripture within the Bible, Jesus is talking to particular groups of people at particular times. There are times where his message is, yes, it is for everyone. But in this instance, it's for the people who are believers and followers of Christ. He's talking directly to his disciples within this text. He says to them, you are the light of this world. So now we know who, right? It's the disciples of Christ. It's the followers of Christ. That's the you. So the you is the who. Confused yet? But what? We know who. That's us, the disciples of Christ. But what? What about us? He says, you are the light. The light. Now, I tried to get this light bulb to work during the children's sermon today. And it didn't work very well. Because as Dylan pointed out, it wasn't plugged into anything. It needs to be put into a lamp. Jesus said, a town built on a hill cannot be hidden. When you think of a city on a hill, what's one of the first things that come to mind? Dale?
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan. Why does Ronald Reagan come to mind?
Because he endeared the United States as a beacon on a hill or a city on a hill that would shine a light.
He would shine a light. Fantastic. When we think about what he said, when he said that the United States needs to be a city on the hill, realize that there was oppressive darkness pressing in from all sides for the United States. Don't you think the same thing is happening to Christianity today? Isn't there darkness pressing in from all sides? Now, if we think about some of the cities that were built back in this time, they didn't have siding. They didn't have shingles. They couldn't create any colors, really, to make their house stand out from the neighbors. A lot of the homes were made from sandstone, and a lot of the homes were made from limestone. And limestone, after sitting in the sun for some time, kind of bleaches out and gets brighter. And when the sun shines on this city, you can see it for miles away. This bright white city. But yet when the sun goes down, what happens? Suddenly you see lights. You can see candles. You can see lamps. So no matter what happens, you can still see where this city is on the hill. When Jesus calls us to be the light of the world, he wants us to be that city on the hill, that when the sun is fully shining on us, we need to reflect him. When the darkness gathers in and it seems like there's no hope, we need to let the light of Christ shine from within so people can still see. There's an interesting commercial that's on TV. I honestly don't remember what it is, whether it's GE or something. But it talks about the human eye being able to see a match being lit from 18 football fields away. It's pitch black. 18 football fields. How far is that? That's probably like, what, 2 miles? Maybe? Probably something close to that. But imagine a small match being lit in the darkness. And you're 2 miles away and you can see that light. It's pretty powerful. Jesus is saying to his disciples, you and you alone are the light of the world. He's saying in this cold, dark, dismal world, if there was only one light, one match, let that light be you. Don't worry about everyone that's gathered here. Don't worry about the people that are talking around you. Don't worry about what they think. Don't worry about what they do. I want you to be the light of the world. You are the light of this community. And he said, a city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. So I talked about the daytime. I talked about the nighttime. You can't hide the city on the hill. So we've got our who, that's you. We've got our what, that's a light. Now we're going to talk about when. Now since I've told you that a city on a hill cannot be hidden either at day or at night, when do you think we should be the light of the world? Every moment. All the time. That's our when. All the time. We sang our song this morning and there were a number of other verses where we could say, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Put it under a bushel. No. It doesn't make sense to light a candle or light a lamp to provide light for everyone around it and then put a basket over top of it so nobody can see. It just doesn't make sense. And that's what Jesus is talking about here. It simply means that we are required to shine all of the time. We're supposed to yield to our selfishness, our ambitions, our fears, and even our pride. in order to be used by God to transmit His glory through us to the rest of the dying world. Jesus used a metaphor to describe us as a city that cannot be hid. And I want to talk about pride a little bit here when we're talking about cities that can't be hid. We're simply not the light in and of ourselves. We're simply a reflection of the one that provides the true light. We are the reflection. It simply means that just as the moon reflects its source of light from the sun, S-U-N, we too are only reflections of our one true light, God's Son, S-O-N. You see, the moon does not generate light by itself. It reflects light from the sun. The moon is dark and it depends on the sun in order for it to shine. So we can't shine on our own either. We're dependent on the sun to be able to shine. We talked about with Dylan, he said, well, wait a minute, I can't plug in, I don't have a plug. But if we're dependent on Him, if we're relying on Him for all of our needs, you're going to shine. You don't have a choice but to shine. He's that powerful. So we know who, that's you, what, a light, when, all the time. Now where? Where are we supposed to shine? Wherever you are. Are you reading this, Howard? Did I give you a copy of this?
No, but you're saying the truth, and that's the important thing.
Thank you. Where? Everywhere you go. Walk with me through verse 15 again. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. All. So it's everywhere that you go. There are times where you might want to light some candles within your home. Most of us don't do it for light, but hey, whatever the wife just cooked, you want to get rid of the smell as quickly as possible, so you light a candle, right? Kidding, hon. Kidding. But honestly, there needs to be a type of attitude filtered into our style of witness. So we need to set the mood. How many of you have said, or have heard somebody say, it's kind of contrary to all the time and wherever you go, but they say, you know what, I'm waiting for the right day, the right time, the right qualification or right situation to witness to a certain someone. We all have opportunities each and every day of our lives to spread the love of Jesus. But how many of us are saying, you know what, now's just not a good time? I wanted to say something to them, but you know what, they were in a mood and I knew that was just going to set them off. Say it anyway, that's what I'm saying. I can certainly tell you that a style of witnessing, there's really no biblical reference for a style of witnessing. Some people wish there were. And why is this? Because tomorrow is not promised, to let alone that person that God has put into your heart to witness to. So when, all the time, where, everywhere you go, constantly, we are to be the light, the pure reflection of Jesus Christ at every opportunity that we have. We don't want to wait for the right time, because the right time is always now. We can't wait to be in the mood. We can't wait for the situation to change. We need to do it now. He's simply telling us that we as His disciples need to be visible all the time and everywhere we go. Because we are required to transmit the light. Now here's where I put my science hat on. Transmit. Transmit simply means to send something, to pass something on, or cause something to spread from one person, thing, or place to another.